We are over halfway through the decade, like it or not. I'm sure for many of you, your life is completely different to how it was on December 31st, 2019. Since then, it feels like a lot has happened, and unfortunately, we've lost a lot of languages and distinct varieties since then. In this video, we're going to be discussing those languages chronologically, and if applicable, their revival efforts. The Akachari, or Kari dialect, went extinct on April 4th, 2020. It was the penultimate surviving dialect of the Northern Andamanese language, originally spoken on North Andaman Island and later on Strait Island. At the time of British contact, the Akachari were geographically restricted to the extreme northern coast of North Andaman Island, with potentially only 100 speakers. With a population in the tens, the Indian government removed them all to a reservation on Strait Island in 1969. Only 2 speakers remained in 1994, and the last, Licho, died in 2020 at the age of 83 or 85. The last pre-revitalization native speaker of Tuscarora, Kenneth Patterson, died on December 2, 2020. Tuscarora is a northern Iroquoian language, and the tribe composes one of the 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. I know from personal experience that a revival is actively ongoing. I live in the Buffalo area and have been able to visit the Tuscarora Nation multiple times, and they have signage in the Tuscarora language. I've also met multiple people actively involved in Tuscarora revitalization during my time in college, and so believe that the revitalization process will be successful. JUMA was a variety or distinct language related to Kawahíva, spoken in the state of Rondônia in Brazil. It was part of the Tupi-Guarani language family. The JUMA fell from a population of over 15,000 in the 18th century to only around 300 in 1940, and the last native speaker, Aruka JUMA, died on February 17, 2021. Some text and language documentation exists, but the ethnicity is also functionally extinct, so I would place JUMA in the cessated unrevivable category. Bering Alute, the dialect of the critically endangered Alute language spoken off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula, went extinct on March 7, 2021 with the death of Vera Timoshenko. Bering Alute has the largest Russian influence of any Alute language, and was functionally only spoken in the city of Nikolskoye, a town of mixed Russian Alute ancestry and the primary settlement on Bering Island. With the death of Bering Alute, Eskaleutian language presence in Asia is limited to the critically endangered Naukan Yupik and Central Siberian Yupik, and a questionable survival of Cyrenaic Yupik. On August 27, 2021, the last pre-revitalization speaker of Yuchi, Maxine Wildcat Barnett, died at 96. Before her death, she and her sister worked incredibly hard to start a revitalization process among the Yuchi community, a process which has helped greatly due to her recordings and works left. A Yuchi language school has been opened in Oklahoma, where the tribe now lives since their movement from Tennessee and deportation from Georgia during the Trail of Tears, and I hope that the language can bounce back, as it is one of the few language isolates of North America. Wukchumni was a dialect of Tule Kawaya Yokuts, itself a variety or distinct language of Yokuts, spoken in Central California. With the death of Marie Desma Wilcox on September 25, 2021, Valley Yokuts became the sole living language variety within the entire Yokuts family, with about 20 native speakers. Marie Wilcox began work on Wukchumni revitalization before her death, and there are at least 3 fluent L2 speakers. The Lahudish variety of Bavarian is believed to have gone extinct by 2022. Spoken in the rural and ancient town of Schopfloch, it formed as a mixed language by the 1600s when non-Jewish Bavarians adopted a lot of Hebrew and Yiddish vocabulary to converse better with the town's notable Jewish population. In 1830, of the 1,390 residents, 382 were Jewish. Schopfloch's Jewish community was essentially completely destroyed during Nazi rule, and only 24 Jewish residents were left in the town by 1939. The Holocaust and the formation of Israel meant that the town's surviving residents were entirely non-Jewish, and although many community members attempted to keep the dialect alive, it was reported in the 1990s that only about 12 people still use Lahudish words at all. I'm linking an article about this in the description. Mohol was extinct by 2022. Go watch Extinct Languages We Should Bring Back, Episode 3, Asia, where I talk about Mohol. Unfortunately, we have another language isolate to discuss. The Yagan language was native to the southernmost end of Tierra del Fuego and was spoken in territories controlled by both Chile and Argentina. The last native speaker, Cristina Calderon, died at 94 in the village of Villa Uquica on Navarino Island. Fortunately, before her passing, the Chilean government organized multiple studies and funded a concise dictionary of the language, although I was unable to find information on how the revival is going now. Yagan has some fascinating linguistic features, and I highly recommend you check it out. Quapa, or Arkansas, went extinct on April 19, 2022, with the death of 91-year-old Ardina Moore. The language gave its name to the state of Arkansas, which you can learn about in my live stream about the accuracy of states' names. The Quapa Nation actively worked with Moore to start a revitalization program, and although the tribe is small, it seems that the revitalization efforts combined with the large amount of field work done on the language have led to some success. The Quapa Nation has a full-time language department leading community classes and working towards increased language services. Medna Alute, or the Copper Island Creole, went extinct with the death of Gennady Yakovlev. This was also spoken in the Commander Islands, but instead of on the larger Bering Island, which we discussed with Bering Alute earlier in this video, on the smaller easterly Medna Island. Medna Alute was spoken by Russian Creoles, who are mixed-race descendants from the period of Russian colonization in Alaska. Most of the speakers of Medna Alute completely switched to Russian during Stalin's rule, and the few remaining speakers were all moved to Nikolskoye on Bering Island in 1970. The language's nouns are 60% Alute, with the remainder mostly Russian, although nearly all verbs come from Alute, and the syntax was largely Russian. Although Medna Alute was notably more agglutinative than Russian, it also vastly differed from the other Alute languages in syntax. After the death of Vera Timoshenko mentioned earlier, Gennady Yakovlev became the last native Alute speaker in all of Russia. Columbia Moses was an interior Silesian language spoken mostly on the Colville Reservation in the state of Washington. It went extinct on May 2, 2023, with the death of 96-year-old Pauline Stensgar. The Silesian languages are wild, and fortunately partly due to this, they have received a lot of fieldwork and linguistic attention. Although I couldn't find whether Columbia Moses has a revitalization program or not, I sure hope it does. 3 languages spoken in the general West Papua region were confirmed to have gone extinct by 2024 by field research teams. Luhu was an Austronesian language spoken in a few villages on the western end of Seram Island and by people on Boano and Kalong Island. It was estimated to have 3,500 native speakers in 1989, but due to Indonesian linguistic policies, Indonesian colonialism, and increased connectivity to the other ethnic groups on the island, it was shown to be extinct by 2024. Tandja was also an Austronesian language, but of the South Halmahera West New Guinea grouping. The last 2 speakers were documented in 1991 and lived on the Wandaman Peninsula in West Papua. The ethnicity largely switched to the Wamisa language, also known as Wandaman. I highly recommend learning about the West Papua conflict if you're interested in linguistic anthropology or overlooked history in general. There was also the Mawis language, one of the 24 or so Foja Range languages of the proposed Northwest Papuan family. In 2006, there were 850 native speakers, but none reported in 2024. Documentation of all of these languages is lacking, and so revitalization, especially with Indonesian linguistic policies, is likely impossible. The last language to talk about in this video, and the most recent language death on the wiki page from whence I learned about these, is Caddo, which went extinct on July 14, 2025, with the death of Edmund Johnson. The Caddo historically lived around the near Quadra-Point border of Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. They were forcibly moved to Oklahoma, where they were given a reservation in western Oklahoma. In 1997, there were 25 native speakers, but linguistic revitalization programs began in the 2000s, and now the Caddo Nation has a flourishing language revitalization. Although I could not find statistics on the number of post-revitalization L1 and L2 speakers. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about these languages, and thank you all for helping me reach 20,000 subscribers. See you in the next video, and thank you all for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters who help make videos on this channel possible. Thank you to John Costello, Andrew B., Addie, Alan, Cactus Creek, Eden, The Wub, Alexis, Elijah, and Fetafioka. See you guys next time.